clarification there. I just asked the city attorney. This is a almost $4.5 million contract for, I guess, for legal services. And is this the same firm that has been doing the work? And I know that the next item, I think you just maybe divide the work up with two firms. I couldn't tell exactly the basis for making that decision in a very short email I got.
Yes, sir. Zucker, Scout, and Rassenberger, which is a DC firm, has been performing legal services for the Houston Airport system for many years. In consultation with Director Diaz, I had recommended that before a new contract be given to that firm, that an RFQ be sent out for legal services for the airport, just as we had for other parts of the city when I first became city attorney. That was done. A number of firms proposed. Obviously, as you understand, this is a highly specialized area of the law. Kaplan Kirsch, who is in item 47, that's the firm that gave us some outstanding advice with respect to the Southwest Airlines United matter. So those two firms were selected. It was my belief that having two firms to call upon, obviously not for redundancy, but rather for differing expertise, was in the best interest of the city. So that's how that came about. The $4.45 million certainly does sound a lot of money. It is to me. It was based on the historical usage of the Zucker firm, but obviously no obligation whatsoever to incur fees of that magnitude. And I work with Director Diaz to try and watch these invoices closely.
So on item 47, if we can discuss that one as well, you did get a number of responses to your RFP or RFQ.
Yes, sir. We got 4 altogether from firms outside the city.
This is a Denver firm, is that right? Not
Yes, sir.
Washington, D.C. firm?
Zucker is D.C., Kaplan is Denver.
And so you feel like they can do the work, the situs of the work primarily in Washington over than in Denver? I can understand how they could work here.
Yes, sir. In this day and time, most of it is electronic. There's very few actual in-person or site visit.
What kind of matters do they work on for the city? What's a typical matter that they would work on?
Besides Southwest Airlines?
Well, that matter's been resolved, I guess.
Not entirely. That's ongoing, but separate agreements would be brought before council. There are a lot of specialty issues that arise with respect to FAA compliance. As you know, this is a highly regulated field. There's constant interaction with
a lot of FAA with the grants that we get for the construction of the runways.
No, what it has to do with is how the city expends the revenues generated at the airport. It's all very, it's an enterprise fund.
Right. And
it's very closely regulated by the FAA. So there's constant interaction between the lawyers for the city and the lawyers for the FAA. And there are a myriad number of issues that arise on a day-to-day basis that specifically relate to aviation law out at the airport.
Well, it sounds like a lot of these are recurring issues. Have you given any thought to having some in-house people to do part of this work?
Yes, and we do. But dealing directly with the FAA and having an ongoing relationship with the FAA is I have found is very significant, and unfortunately we don't offer sufficient salaries to draw people who have specific expertise in this area. We do have lawyers, including myself, who spend a lot of time working on airport matters. But there are specific issues that require that FAA experience that we simply don't have.
Thank you very much.
Newton, if I borrow a moment of this time, and it's about to expire. This begs a larger question that we should perhaps discuss. Virtually every other city of our size and a number of smaller cities have a full-time city presence in our nation's capital. The city of Houston does not. And so we end up using law firms and lobbyists to represent us up there. We do have a full-time presence in the legislative session, for example, while the legislature is in session. But at some point, the city of Houston is going to have to decide whether it's worth investment of a city staff presence full-time in Washington, and I think we're getting to that point. We do spend a great deal of money up there.
You know, you may have heard me say before, but I think the consultants that work for us are only as good as the people who are inside, who are supervising them. And so I would encourage you to look at that. I mean, just a lot of times when you hire a consultant, even an experienced one, they have to kind of be brought up to speed, kind of be directed. So I think it would be good to have some personnel. I mean, obviously you have to find the right person, and with the various matters that we have up there, I don't know whether one person can do the job. I think it's a worthwhile thing to look at. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Green.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess this question to Mr. Feldman, if I may, with regard to whether or not there's an MWBE component for legal services here in the city of Houston. I didn't see a waiver in the back of material, and so do we look to go out to give? I mean, this is a $4 million contract, and so did we go out to try to? Do we have a goal, or is there a goal for professional legal services on work like this?
The answer is no, council member, because it requires very specific legal expertise. There is no opportunity for subcontracting the actual legal work.
And I see we have firms out of Denver, and we've gone all over the country. I'm sure there's minority firms around this country who could do the work, and I understand it requires special expertise. I would just hope that, because this is, when we're dealing with sizable amounts of work like we have here, that the MWBE component would be considered. Thank you.
Was there a minority firm that bid, sir?
No, ma'am.
Councilmember Sullivan.
As sensitive as I am, like probably most people up here with respect to MWBE issues, this is an item about, as the city attorney said, about very specialized, specific legal work to be done. I think it's more important to get this done and get it done right for this item, for this topic today, than it is to continue to harangue about MWBE at every possible contract done before city council. Sometimes that opportunity is just not there. We still have a responsibility to get our work done. The city spends an extraordinary amount of resources and efforts to include MWBE. It's an aggressive program. It's successful. There are a lot of people around the table who care about it, and I do too. But this item is specific about aviation law, and city attorney, I congratulate you and applaud you on your selection in this case. Thank you.
Councilmember Green.
With all due respect, minority firms and minorities can understand aviation law. It ain't that technical. Last time I checked, the President of the United States with the Harvard Law grant. And so it's that type of attitude, essentially, that I have to stand here and request that a city that is a minority city have to fight every day to get a fair share of work. If we've never given the opportunity to show what we can do, it'll never be done. And to intimate, to say perhaps that it wouldn't be done right because it's a minority firm, as if it's substandard. that we could not do the work, that a minority firm could not do the work, is overtly insulting, and I don't appreciate it. Thank you.
Council members, the item before us is the approval of the contract to represent us in specialized aviation matters in Washington. We'll ask that we direct our comments or questions in that direction. Councilmember Burks.
Thank you, Mayor. I respect our council. I respect my colleagues. But the last statement I just heard, I cannot get along with that. Now, every day is a struggle with somebody. And when we ask the question, were there minorities looking into this to get the work? And the answer was no. I can respect that. That was the truth. However, I feel that, like Councilman Green just said, if you never get the opportunity, when will you? Atlanta. An airport has been built in Atlanta, Georgia, and a number of minorities were involved in that. One of the largest airports in the world. So, when we do our searches, I would just like to be included at the table. That's all I have to say.
Mayor Pro Tem Gonzalez.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say that sometimes we do not see a diverse pool of potential vendors because for the last 12 years, this firm has largely done a lot of the work. So I do appreciate the fact that you did go out to the market to try to solicit additional vendors, and I hope that we could help create those opportunities along the way as well. When we have Washington, D.C. firms and Denver firms doing this work, I appreciate their capacity, but I'd like to see some of that talent grown here in Houston. And so I do encourage if we could continue to grow the pool here locally of qualified candidates. And also, I definitely agree with Councilmember Pennington. I thought he raised some good points. Just to understand that we're getting the best return of investment here. I know we invest in lobbyists and attorneys, and these are millions of dollars in expenses. And a lot of this, over time, we should develop in-house expertise and then solicit attorneys on an as-needed basis. But this is a large expense. But I'm going to defer some of my time to Attorney Feldman because I see him wanting to chime in.
Well, a large number of council members are not aware of the fact that after this administration began and I was appointed city attorney, I did something that had never been done before in this city. I sent out RFQs for all legal firms who were interested in providing legal representation to the city of Houston, and we developed panels for each area of expertise. And I did so in addition to trying to obtain some economy in the expenditure of legal fees that had really been exorbitant under prior administrations. I was also interested in creating a diverse group of firms and lawyers to do work for the city. And I'm very proud to say that that's exactly what we have accomplished. We use more minority firms today to do legal work for the city than has ever happened before. This happened to be a particular area of expertise that we had to go out for specially, and unfortunately, no minority firms proposed. Thank you.
Attorney Feldman, and I do appreciate that, and appreciate that your efforts. I'm just saying that I would like to know why they didn't submit. I'm not saying that's a question for you to answer, but what is the pool out there of qualified candidates and why didn't they submit for this? Is it not lucrative enough? Do they feel they would not get a fair shake?
Honestly, council member, I don't know whether there are any minority law firms that specialize in aviation law. We don't have a firm in Houston that specializes in
Councilmember, I
aviation law.
think the city attorney is talking about two different processes.
Yes.
When we first came in and then we took the additional step of doing another request for qualifications on this contract. As you rightly pointed out, my administration has been very aggressive about looking at any long-term contract we have. Sometimes at great pain at the council table when we change long-term vendors. We aggressively try to see if there's a better opportunity for us. Councilmember Wong.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I have to compliment Mr. Feldman. I have legal questions. He always answers me promptly, and on this matter too. As you have seen, that I also am a minority, and I also want the MWBE goal to be achieved to this issue. However, the explanation by our city attorney, it makes sense to me a lot. He has explained to me that he has tried to send out invitation for vendors to the city of Houston in these particular issues, particular matters, the expertise in this field. But this fellow wanted to find one, and if I'm not mistaken, he said to me none of them submitted, so that he can have a subcontractor in this matter. I want some Asian firm in this matter too, but we don't have any. Actually, we voice it out. Nobody submitted. So if there's none out there, what can we do? So I support this item, but I also want to send out a strong message to minority firms who want to have this kind of contract. Please submit your application to the city or to the general contractor here. If we would say that we want the minority firm, but no minority firm out there, what can we do? So again, Mayor, I have to compliment Mr. Feldman. He responded promptly, rightly, and I buy his argument. So as a minority here, I support this issue not because that we haven't looked for subcontractors. We've tried, but there is no submission from minority firm. That's the reason why I support this issue.
Vice Mayor Pro Tem Bradford.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to just go back briefly to Councilman Green's point. I think that his question was in fact a valid question, and a question well placed. I like Houston first. I like local involvement. I like MB involvement and participation as well. So, colleague, your question was in fact a proper question. It's a $4.5 million engagement here. At the same time, Mr. Feldman rendered what I thought was a plausible response. But I think that's what we're supposed to do. You put your question on the table. Why do we have what we have, and you solicit a response. So I have an appreciation for your question. It's a well-placed question. Mr. Feldman, I do appreciate the plausible response that you put into the record. Thank you.
Councilmember Noriega.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The other point that kind of went by quickly was the fact that we address this fairly frequently when these items hit the agenda. In the past, upon occasion, we have had situations where we've had subcontractors who have used the name of another firm in vain, or have subcontracted with someone to do some of the work, and then ended up getting the bid, not notifying the company and not doing what they said they were going to do, or they have ignored the percentages, and then at the end they say, what are you going to do? We have to pay them. So we do have some experience with concerns about this, and so asking the question as it comes up is really one of the only vehicles that council members have to bring it to folks' attention. We ask questions behind the scenes, we work to recruit firms, we ask about it privately, but asking in public holds firms accountable in a different way. And I'm a mom. You don't make rules with kids that they're not going to have to follow. You know, we don't want to have something we're supposed to do that we don't do. And so it's just as simple as that in some cases, that if we're going to have this be part of our process, then it needs to be accountable. And that's really all. Thank you.
Seeing no further discussion, we'll move to on the item. Avery, opposed.
No.
Item carries. Councilman Green.